My love for the human figure, my interest, goes back all the way to my childhood and growing up in a family of two artists. And they were artists that worked with the human figure, with portraiture, figure drawing and painting. And so I grew up basically in a studio. And so that love and just being used to having the models around or being involved in that way and drawing right from being small. So it was a natural development that I then grew more and more intense as I was going to some art schools. And then around when I was even when I was 15, we were doing life-size drawings in that art school. So then around 23, I decided to pursue it more seriously and studying and apprenticed with my parents actually for a few years while I was going to an art school in Vancouver. The visible reflects and expresses the invisible. That's what is one aspect that I continue to be fascinated with, studying the human figure and figures and the gesture and the language of the gesture, the movement, and the powerful emotional and spiritual charge that is possible to express. This is one of my largest figurative compositions, and it was also work that was done after I started to do a series of paintings with half human, half mannequin. So you see in that painting is this kind of strange vehicle being a boat full of holes, and it's on water. And there are figures in it that have human faces, and yet the parts of their bodies are mannequin parts. The report is that the boat is leaking, and so there's a lot of symbolism. It actually alludes also to a small painting by Hieronymus Bosch that's called The Ship of Fools. And so here we are, my husband and I and some friends on a boat, a journey through life. And it's a questioning of where we are coming from, where are we now, and where are we heading? And that means kind of can allude to the situation of the whole world, of humanity, what's happening on this planet. This was a painting that was started in just hearing the news about what is happening in the Balkans, in Kosovo, Serbia, all those wars in the 90s. And seeing some imagery and just description of what was going on there was so troubling that as with some other paintings, for example, I did another painting called The New World Order that was based on the same event. So this is the color of red. The drapery is a symbol of, it can be symbol of passion, of blood, and on conflict, and the sadness of the figure. And by the way, all these paintings here were done from observation, so that also was a model that modeled, and there's a really interesting aspect of that, working together with another living human being. A Peacekeeper is also from that same time of the wars in Balkans, and there was obviously not just the local nations, but there was an involvement with Western armies and peacekeepers. I have this very strong feeling against war and against any kind of training of people to kill each other and any arms production, making money on the misery of civilians. So that painting is about a soldier who is hiding in a box, which is a symbol of confinement. And that strong shadow there is like the fear. He's not dead, but if you see his face, there is no face. He lost his identity. And that's some of those really absurd, terrible things about wars and conflict. The final pose that you see in this painting is a result of a number of installations of real mannequins, where the parts do not fit. And so this absurdity of something trying to kind of bring the mannequin to life and use it as a metaphor, a symbol of a human being. And it needed actually to be suspended by these ropes. So the rope is helping it to stand and look like it's running, but it's also confining it, and it's also in a box. And I just was thrilled to work with these. They are very heavy, so it's hard to, sometimes the parts of the mannequin fall down and create a new inspiration. So it was like an ongoing, interesting process of working from observation, but from like kind of something that is not alive. And it's also addressing the issue of freedom, what freedom is, what we think that freedom is, and yet, also the frustration with how do we handle it? How do we live with freedom? What does it really mean? And so it's standing and looking like it's running, but it's running against the wall. The quiet meeting is very closely related to some actual life experiences being in, I would say, an institution that I was involved in at the Ontario College of Art, and our meetings there, and just seeing kind of the bureaucracy of the administration, the dimensions of it. So it's from these experiences that the figures that are the mannequins that have a recording device there, they have headphones, and one of them has tape over the lips. So that was like how one often felt in some of these meetings by various ways of exercising intimidation or manipulation by the people present. This is a figure that is completely wrapped up in fabric. And in fact, maybe this is an interesting point, that the painting started with a theme, an idea of the figure of Lazarus, the idea of coming back to life. And then as I again was working with the installation, placing this figure on a pile of newspapers, it changed, the meaning changed to something contemporary. And this is one of my main intentions, to combine some of the ancient themes of humanity with something very or in a contemporary language, so that it speaks to audience today. Images of female figures oscillate between sorrow and hope, life and death, in silence or in a scream. Their inner enigma and tensions compel a gleam of hope, a light to disperse the darkness. They both are holding these, they're actually French horns, but it's supposed to be trumpets. They symbolize, or they actually have, each of them, several attributes of the different angels. There's like the frog. They are beautiful women without wings, so it's an interpretation of a messenger. And they are they're just about to sound the trumpets, announcing something terrible, some catastrophe. So it's a combination of the beauty and truth. They are true, they are pure spiritual being in the flesh. And they are announcing these really judgment that is coming on the humanity that is in a very bad shape. And so there is even like a silhouette of Vancouver in one of the paintings, and the other one has a frog, fire, and pestilence, and a big star falling from heaven. And on top of these paintings are some quotes in Greek letters from the book of Revelation. Inside of my heart and my soul, I know what I am after and what is the desire of my heart. And is it to express the beauty of God's creation, the complexity of the world, and our almost impossible task to understand it. So visually, this is in the back of my mind and in my soul, to express that, and also the connection to spiritual realm, and that is to Christian faith, which is, for example, the Bible is a treasury of visual images that have been inspiration to many artists, and so it is to me too. And I'm interested in that connection between the body, the human figure, and the body, and the word, the power of the word. So to me, both the word, of course, it can be, in many implications, word and then the body, the human figure and the symbolism of both of them and the power of both of those.